Yo. Good morning, good evening. What up? What up?
Yo, mic check. We're live, baby. Episode 6. Come on now. Happy
Let's go.
2024. Dylan, all the way from Australia, man. 2024. Congratulations.
It's
made it
early as
another
fuck, but we made it. We made it out 2023.
We made it another year, huh? Man, that's so
Yes,
weird,
sir.
bro. That's so weird that you're in a whole different year than me. That's
I'm literally living in the future right now.
That's a little
So,
scary.
mm.
I'm not sure I like that. Very
Just so you know, AI has taken over already, and we're fucked.
much. In the next 12 hours.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
15
That's
hours.
what you've got to look forward to. Yeah.
That's nuts, man. That's nuts. Yo, I'm just adjusting some audio levels real quick, but quick shout out to the Chicago Bears, my home team right now, up at the half, 21-7 against the Atlanta Falcons. Okay, so we don't need to make a big deal about
Okay.
it, but we're talking about next
Okay.
year, talking about a comeback, right? Talking about Getsy and Eberflus and the coaching staff, right? Is Justin Fields going to stay? Is he going to leave? I just needed to bring that up because I was scrolling through, reposting stuff right before the space, right before the live stream, and I saw that and I needed to share it because it's my team. That's my team.
You got it. You got
That's
it.
my team. So, yo, everybody in here, welcome back. We're live on X, Twitch, and Kick. Welcome back to another episode of the Day Zero Training Podcast. Episode 6, man. Episode 6. We
Yes,
didn't do an
sir.
episode last week. The holidays were crazy. Trying to get our schedules to line up sometimes is a little bit difficult. But we're locking in some more, what's the word?
Consistent.
Consistent. Thank you. We're locking in
I
some,
knew it. I knew
some,
what you were
some,
talking
some
about.
consistent times. And we're looking at Sundays at 1:30. So at this time right here, we're going to be doing these every single week moving forward into 2024, which is going to be awesome. It's kind of been all over the place for a little bit. But we're still making it happen, man. So, and we just love doing this. So we're going to keep making it happen. Look, a quick shout out before we kind of jump into what we've got going on. Yesterday was the Innovators Think Tank. And the Innovators Think Tank is hosted by Josh, Cash Money Kevin, and Mattia Cominelli. And look, those are my boys, man. They are absolutely incredible. If you have a project business idea, man, that's the place to go, bro, is the Innovators Think Tank. They've got all the juice. They've got all the sauce. Anything you need to improve your project business idea, to innovate not only in your business, but in your own life, man, that's the place to do it, bro. So if you guys can, go ahead over there, check them out. Give all of them a follow. Give the space a follow. Join their community. Join their Discord. They've got so much going on, man. If there's a masterclass of how to create a community, it's the Innovators Think Tank. So go over there, check them out. We love them. We're always supporting them. To
Yes, sir.
bounce off of that, in February, all right? In February, on February 17th, myself and all those boys who host the ITC over there, we're going to Arizona, Fort McDowell, Arizona, for a Spartan race, all right? Dylan, I wish you could be there. It would be so sick
Bro,
if
me
you could.
too. That would be cool.
But if you guys don't know what a Spartan race is, we're running the Spartan Super, so it's like a 10K run and 25 obstacles. And we're so excited. We spent like 3 hours planning all the flights and everything the other day. And, dude, it's cool, man. It's going to be sick. I'm going to go into Denver, and then we're going to drive over to Arizona. And there's going to be a ton of content on that on my YouTube channel coming really, really soon. There's some videos coming out on my YouTube channel coming really, really soon. And you guys can find all the links for that stuff in the description, everything like that. But we want to invite the community. So if you guys are watching this and you guys are like, yo, I want to do a Spartan race, join the Day Zero training community on Spartan.com because we've got cool stuff going on over there. We all signed up, so you can see, like, we all signed up for the race. But if you go online and, like, just with your email, create an account, you can, like, join the team, and you can track your races and stuff like that. So it's pretty sick, man. And, Dylan, you should start doing this, bro. We've been using the Nike Run app, like the Run Club app.
Yeah.
And it's sick because we, like, set challenges for each other, and then, like,
Nice.
it's just fun. It's like competitive, man. It turns it all competitive, and it's sick. So we love it. Any kind of group to hold yourself accountable, right, is always a good one. So,
Yeah.
so, yo, with the shout outs out of the way, let's jump right into it. Dylan, it's 2024, bro. How was your New Year's Eve, man?
Yeah, bro, just quiet, man. Quiet. Wanted to make sure I had fucking energy today, so didn't do too much last night. Just had like a quiet night in with the missus. Just stayed in watching movies, and yeah, saw out the new year. And once it ticked over to midnight, we said goodnight and went to bed. So
That's it, yeah.
it wasn't anything crazy. Wasn't any chaos.
Sure,
So I just
sure.
kept it chill.
Sure.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm not a big party person anyway. So like even New Year's Eve, like I'm usually at home, like just having a quiet one. So
Sure.
straight into whatever I needed to today. Obviously, I knew I had to be up at 5:30 a.m. for this, so
Appreciate
jumped
it.
up, got it. I'll go jump back in bed with her in 45 minutes when we're done here. But yeah, it's massive thunderstorms and stuff today, so it's pretty loud outside. I don't know if you can hear the
I could
thunder
right
and
there.
lightning and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pouring rain. So there's probably not going to be much going on today either, other than just chilling out. So it's gonna be a quiet New Year's, which I kind of like, to be honest. There's no going out, no getting crazy, no nothing. So yeah, other than that, I'm chilling. So
Yeah, man, bro. I feel like Christmas and New Year's both have like been weird this year because Christmas was on Monday, wasn't it? And New Year's
yeah,
Day is on Monday, like it's Sunday
Monday.
today. So it's like,
Yeah.
are we going to work? Like, I'm working tomorrow. I don't know about anybody
Right.
else, but I'm working tomorrow.
Yeah, I worked yesterday.
So-
Like, yeah, I got today off, but I worked yesterday,
Sure,
and
yeah.
I worked like the day after Christmas Day. So it's like, geez, man, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, well, dude, I'm glad to hear that you're having like a chill time. I appreciate you taking time out of your lovely sleep, lovely slumber to come provide some
That's
value
good.
to this incredible
So
community.
good.
You cracked a monster yet or what?
Nah, bro, not yet, not yet. That's my goal this year, is to have a few less.
Mm.
Limit myself. I was on 2 a day for like the last 2 months, so it's kind of getting to a point where I was like, I should probably try and like tone that back a little bit. So that's kind of one of my goals, is to. Plus, I was spending too much money on them as well, so it was like,
Yeah,
bro,
2 a day.
I
It's
just
like,
yeah. When I was seeing how much I was spending on them, I was like, dude, I need to do something. Like,
Sure.
and probably my heart will thank me as well.
I need to take
Just
after you,
trying.
man. I have these. I actually have one sitting. Showing on stream.
Shout out Monster though.
These-
Shout out to Monster though.
These iced coffees from Starbucks. These like,
Oh,
big ass ones.
facts. Yeah.
I love them, and I'm so addicted. And
Yeah.
I'll drink them before a run, and I'll drink them when I get back from a run. Not the whole thing, obviously, because it's huge.
Bro, I was gonna say, you drink that whole thing before a run, you're gonna be shitting the entire run. It's gonna be running down your leg.
No,
bro.
oh man, don't put that image in my head, bro. But no, I've just been addicted to those. Anyways, this is not a podcast about iced coffee. This is not a podcast about Monster Energy. This is a podcast about health and wellness.
Who would have thought?
And so today I kind of wanted to dive a little bit deeper into a couple concepts that I've been thinking about, over the past couple weeks, and originally I just wanted to talk about RPE, and what RPE is rate of perceived exertion.
Yeah.
And so we'll get into that in a second. But then kind of what I found through my through some of my research, that went into this, is that I think there's a conversation to be had about when you use it as well. When do you use RPE? And if you're not using RPE, what should be the focus of your training, right? Because rate of perceived exertion is a concept that I think for a little bit, like a couple years ago, it was a trend, right? And so I've been lately getting into a little more, like, been watching a lot of videos on like powerlifting and how to program a powerlifting program and stuff like that. And so have been kind of consuming a little bit more content here and there on what, how to implement RPE, but just like we talked about long length partials a couple weeks ago, I feel like RPE is like, it was a trend in the fitness industry 3 years ago, right? And I think that it's still a really, really useful tool that we have in the toolbox. And so that's why I don't think it's not like an old topic we can't talk about anymore. I think it's really, really relevant still. I mean, as many concepts are, right? It's the human body, right? So
right.
I think as many concepts are, but Yeah, I wanted to talk about it because it was a little more advanced concept. Um,
Mm.
but then I also wanted part of our conversation to preface that and just kind of talk about like proper technique with RPE, but also just in general and why it's just as important to like focus on that and if not, my argument is if not more important to focus on that than RPE. So Dylan, I wanted to hear. I know we haven't really discussed this prior to the podcast, like about
Nah.
what you know or anything like that. So, um, let me know what are some things that you know about RPE and how you've heard it implemented over the past couple years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, RPE is not one of those things out here that gets mentioned too often. I think it's probably a bigger thing out where you guys are.
So
For
interesting.
us, like RPE, I feel like is one of those things that you can tie into progressive overload.
Uh
So,
huh.
you know, knowing how difficult a certain set was to you and where your body is
Right.
one way of tracking where you could be the next workout and the
Mm-hmm.
workout after that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, RPE kind of gets blended a little bit into progressive overload out here without knowing it. So,
Interesting.
nobody really talks about, oh, like that was an RPE 7 or that was an RPE 8. Like, it's just not a conversation that goes on during workouts out here. It's like, you know, I mean, I guess we do, but we don't use like a number system. It's kind of like how cooked was that set? Like, how did you feel? Like, did that set fuck
That's
you
the
up or did that yeah, that's the
that's the
terminology
technical
we
term.
use, like yeah, like how fucked was that set basically. So
Right. Right. Right.
it's we use it without knowing that we use it, but it's not like a indicator so much as to at least not in my training or anyone that I've trained with over the past few years like uses RPEs in a sense. So um I guess like I know what it is from having like watched stuff and done my own research and seen other people use it, like other coaches and stuff like that. So, um, if you kind of know how difficult a certain workout is or a certain exercise is, then you can kind of go from there and be like, oh, okay, yeah, sweet. Like next workout, I need to be here. So like
Mm,
this one was, pretty difficult, but I know I could go harder. It's not like,
mm,
oh, this was a 6, so I'm gonna go and like make sure the next one's an 8. It's like, no, like I knew this one was manageable and it didn't like destroy me. So next time I know I need to go harder. So
right.
it's you're still progressive overloading, you're still going harder. It's one of those things where you're not just cruising along and doing the same thing every single workout. So for me, that's kind of where it's been essentially.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's interesting. It's the much less scientific term of how cooked how cooked are you?
Yeah. How cooked are you? Yep.
That's funny.
That's the terminology.
Yeah, but progressive overload, I know we've talked about it a little bit on here too, but it's they're definitely used in tandem, right? I mean, we say tool in the toolkit, tool in the toolbox a lot on here.
Yeah.
And it really is, right? It really is
Mm.
tool in the toolkit, tool in the toolbox. Like it's something you can use. It's not the only thing that you have to use. I'd argue that progressive overload you should mostly always go for, but and
Yeah.
try and implement. But yeah. So that's dude. I didn't even think about like you guys out there just like don't even really talk about it.
Yeah.
That's so interesting to me. So like so when you were out here and like training out here, did you talk about it more or like were you
A little
introduced to
bit,
it
yeah.
or
Like
like
like obviously like when I was out at college out there, like we would talk about it during our training and stuff like that. So it was definitely more obvious out there than it is here. Like I'm sure trainers do use it, and like obviously I've only worked with a couple of trainers out here, but
yeah,
it's one of those things where it was mentioned much more frequently when I was in the States than it was
sure,
mentioned out here.
sure.
Um, and that's not to say that trainers don't use it. I just haven't come across too many trainers that emphasize it the same way,
Mm.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's a concept I think and this is why I wanted to talk about proper technique too because it's a concept I think that like people it gets so messy, right? It gets super, super messy. And so part of the reason I wanted to cover it this week was because like I think we are coming at it from a perspective where like honestly, I haven't been studying this stuff for 20 years.
Mm.
Right? I just know how to use the tools. I don't know all the ins and outs of the tools. And I think
Yeah.
that gives myself and you a unique perspective because there's a lot of jargon, a lot of terms that are used to explain RPE, and to a beginner to intermediate lifter, it's like, what? It's like it
Mm,
doesn't even make any sense. I don't even know how to feel my muscles working, right? I don't even have a mind muscle connection yet. I don't even know exactly how to do a lat pull down, right? I was just talking to a
mm.
buddy the other day, bro. It took me like 6 months, 7 months to learn how to properly do a lat pull down. Like
Yeah.
every time I do a lat pull down, I think about it. I'm like, I didn't do these
You're like,
right for months, man.
I wasted
Really,
7 months.
really, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So before we jump into exactly what RPE is, I want to talk a little bit about proper technique and why it's so important, and like
Mm,
proper mechanics and why those proper mechanics are so important. Because I think once you have a foundational level of, I know how to do this movement, I know how to do this movement properly, and I'm able to build a proper mind muscle connection, I can start to add elements that make the lift harder, make it more complicated, stimulate the muscle in different ways, stimulate the muscle more, right? I think that's when you can start to add all those elements, right? Progressive overload, I think, is another one that you start to add once you
mm.
really lock down that proper technique. So I think in any beginner, and I mean, I'd argue even sometimes intermediate lifter, depending on how you're defining those things. I think intermediate, there's still a lot of room to grow. Maybe more so in this case, beginner, for proper technique. But it's so important. It's so important to use proper form in the gym and spend time in, the first 3 months of your training, or maybe the first 3 months of a new program. You haven't really trained a ton before, or if you have trained before and you're working on a new program, spend the first week or two, right, on implementing just proper technique into every single lift you do. Even if it doesn't mean that you're lifting as heavy, you're lifting properly, you're engaging the correct muscle groups that need to be engaged, and you're greatly reducing your risk for injury. So
Yeah.
what does that look like, right? And I think like I think that looks like putting your ego to the side and
Yeah.
going a little bit lighter on the lifts that you're doing, right? So if you have a chest day, don't sit down and just try and bench 225 or 185 or whatever. Take some weight off, focus on proper mechanics, focus on proper breathing, focus on mind muscle connection, right? These are all fundamentals of proper technique. And
Mm,
the reason that this is so important to understand is because that's going to lead to way more muscle growth than just like going in there and like lifting heavy and blah, blah, blah. even
yeah.
even the dudes you see who go in and just like lift stupid and heavy, at some point they had to learn how to properly do that lift, unless they wouldn't be as big as they are, right? They wouldn't be as
Yeah.
big as they are, they wouldn't be as lean
100%.
as they are, right? So using proper technique 99% of the time. I'm going to say 99% of the time, because there's 1% of the time I would argue to not use proper technique. Using proper technique as a trainer, as a coach, is the number one. Like, you need to do this. You
Yeah.
need to do this. So before
Hmm.
you implement any kind of RPE, progressive overload, stuff like that, proper technique, you need it. You just do. You just do. You
Mm.
know.
Yeah, for sure. I think like one of the things too, like it's not like it is proper technique, but one thing as well that a lot of people neglect that leads to injuries and stuff, like you mentioned, not warming up correctly either.
True.
Like
True.
there are so many people that just, and I get it, like you're on a time crunch. Sometimes you've only got 45 minutes to work out. Sometimes you've only got, a little bit of time or whatever. You still need to warm up properly. Like if you're squatting or you're shoulder pressing or you're benching or whatever you might need to do, like you've got to warm up the appropriate areas. Otherwise, you are eventually over time going to snap something. Like something is going to go
Yeah.
wrong. So and if you're progressive overloading, especially like if you're training in like for progressive overload and you're getting heavier and heavier each time you work out, you're eventually going to hit a spot where you'll find kind of where your limit is, and if you're not warming up correctly, you're going to hurt yourself.
Huh.
So one thing for me is like I get an hour to train
Mm.
because it's during my lunch break at work. So my workouts are generally not as long as I would like them to be. And so it's very easy for me to go, oh, no, I don't need to warm up. But what I've been doing is warming up between my warm up sets. So,
Mm.
for example, if I'm squatting, you know, I will do my set with just the bar, like as just to get my depth and get my technique right and everything. And then in between that set and my next set, I'm, doing hip isolations or 90s, or I'm, doing open the gate, close the gate, just trying to warm my hips up, get my knees ready. Some like light little lunges or something just to get blood moving and, the fluid out of my knees and stuff like that. Cause obviously I sit all day in an office for the most part. So, things like that, or things like shoulder press, like I'll get the long stick out and I'll do my like shoulder circles and things like that with the stick just to make sure I'm ready to go for shoulder press, or if I'm benching, same sort of thing. So getting that proper warm up before you get into your lifts in general is one thing that is heavily neglected, especially when you're not training with a trainer.
Right.
That's going to lead to an injury. And, once you're properly warmed up, then you can go into proper technique, which again, there are so many different opinions on how certain things are supposed to be performed. But, um, you know, there are general rules of thumb with certain exercises that will get you the most out of them. And we touched on that a little bit about like engagement last week and stuff like that isn't always necessarily the best thing for muscle growth and that kind of stuff. But I guess in terms of injury prevention, from that perspective, technique is key. You need to know that you're not always going to lift super heavy and have, like, if you have shit form, you're going to hurt something, you're going to snap something. So while you're working on building up your weight, you need to make sure your form's immaculate on weights you can handle before you start going for 1RMs and hurt something or do something that's going to damage you long term and put you out longer, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, I love all of which I think, and we talked about those activations and warm ups last episode, and so if you guys haven't seen that, go and watch that because, like you said, Dylan, that comes before even the proper technique, right before you even start the movements, and that risk mitigation of injuring yourself is like so huge, and we don't see it. We don't see it day to day. We really don't, and that's why it's important we stress these points because you don't go into the gym and you're like, if you do this wrong, you will get injured that day. We're talking about injuries that will come with time, and so that's why it's important to like address the stuff now, but don't be scared of the stuff as well, right? And so to not be scared of the stuff because we still want to lift heavy, right? We still want to implement progressive overload, right? Sometimes there are going to be times where we're going for 1RMs, right? And so to do that, we need to have confidence in our lift. And so to have confidence in the lift, we need to properly warm up. We need to know proper technique, right? Before we get into all these other elements. So I love what you said about all that. Yeah, so I just wanted to touch on that point because beginner lifters, I think that's really important for them to understand proper technique. So RPE, right? It's a little bit complicated, but I want to try and break it down and kind of talk through it in pretty simple terms. So I have a couple graphics that I'm going to use right here. Let's see if this works.
Damn, we told you production was coming
in
2024.
It's coming.
He's starting early. He's gone end of 2023. We got the production working. Let's go.
So these are all things that you guys can find online on your own. So I just looked up RPE charts and found a couple that I thought really, really matched well with what we were going to be discussing today. So to your right, my right, my right is a chart, an RPE chart. So RPE is rate of perceived which essentially means if you're doing an exercise, if you're doing some type of cardio, something like that, this is a way to measure the intensity you are putting into that. So, excuse me, not intensity. A way to measure the effort you are putting into that movement, right? So to my right here, you'll see this RPE chart is mainly focused on cardio, right? And so you can kind of talk about it in a couple of different contexts. But if you look at the top here, it's a 10, which is max effort. You're going as hard as you possibly can. You can barely breathe. You're pushing your body past the limits you thought that you could. You're giving everything you have 100%. That's a 10. And then 9 is a little bit less than that. You go down, down, down. 2 to 3 is light activity. 1, very light activity, right? So these are all measures and tiers, essentially, of effort, right? And so we can think about it in this context with cardio, or second image. Hold on. Not that one.
While you find that large banana, RPE 10s will probably need to have a bit of a cry afterwards. Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah. If you're hitting RPE 10, you're definitely going to need a little bit of a cry after that one. Yeah. Just cry into your protein shake at the end of that workout. You'll be okay.
Yeah, all the salt from your tears should replenish your body a little bit.
Yeah.
So here's another RPE scale, and this one focuses a little bit more when you're in the weight room. So RPE of 10 means you're doing as many repetitions as possible. Even if somebody was holding a gun to your head, you couldn't do enough. And basically, this is more commonly referred to, I think, in the fitness space as training to failure, which means you can't do any more. That's it. You're done. Everything hurts. It's tough. No more. And so the same thing with this RPE scale, you go down and down and down till very light effort. And so this rate of perceived exertion, or this effort that you're giving in, I think, in my experience training people, gets really mixed up in the number of reps you're doing in a particular set. So a lot of people will see, 12 to 15 reps at an RPE of 8. Like, what does that mean? Right? Because the RPE scale seems like it's kind of arbitrary number, right? These are numbers that are just kind of made up. 1 through 10 sounds good, so let's make it 1 through 10, right? But essentially what that means is if you have a set that's, 12 reps of easy bar bicep curls at an RPE of 8. What that means is when you get done with the rep, or when you get done with the set, of 12 bicep curls, you should be able to do 2 more repetitions. And so you can see that on the graphic we have on screen right now. Could do 2 more repetitions, right? So I'll give one more example of that. If we're deadlifting and we're doing a set of your mic arm always
gets me, bro. It literally always tries. Like the slightest movement and this thing's ready to jack me up and hit me in the head.
That's so funny.
Throwing hands.
It is. If you're deadlifting and you're doing a set of 3 reps or 4 reps, let's say you're doing a set of 4 reps at an RPE of 7. That means that you get 3 good reps in, but then you should be able to do 3 more repetitions after that, but you cut your set off early. So I think a common misconception, and some people may disagree with me, but I think a common misconception, especially when it comes to recovery in something like powerlifting or just general strength training, is that every set has to go to failure. And I think that misconception comes from the bodybuilding world. And tools like RPE, percentage-based training, stuff like that, they're more implemented in the powerlifting world. But the misconception that every set has to go to failure definitely comes from the bodybuilding world. And so I know I've been told by coaches every set should go to failure. And I think if you are running some kind of cycle of some kind of steroid, then it's not that bad to take every single set close to or to failure because of that ability to recover quickly. Now, I don't know a bunch of sports science when it comes to PEDs, so I don't want to speak on that too much. That's just my limited knowledge. But I've had coaches tell me that, like, every single set to failure. And even for a hypertrophic response, I think it limits the gains that you're able to achieve. Yo, thank you for being in here, Lodgeman, and I appreciate it, and thank you for the chats. I see you. The main problem with RPE is the P bit. It's a subjective mental variable, especially with cardio. Exactly. And that's one of the big things I wanted to talk about, and that's why I wanted to talk about proper form before this. And so the RPE scale is really good for intermediate to experienced lifters who are trying to break through plateaus, people who are trying to maybe test their body and see exactly what they can do, right? I know there's a lot of implementation of this in percentage-based training in powerlifting, right? So you're doing far lower reps, but you're doing maybe 5 sets or 4 sets of a deadlift, right? And you're trying to not only increase your max output on a 1RM, but you're also training with very specific weights in a very specific way to stimulate improvement. But that's with intermediate to experienced lifters. The problem with RPE, I think, is that it's a lot. So even in that explanation, me trying to simplify it, I feel like it's still
would confuse people.
Yeah, like it's still a confusing topic. And so I think the confusion comes from people. You see RPE 8 and it throws off your whole workout. Like people see that and they're like, okay, like,
oh, I was just about to get into this.
It's like, oh, I have to do this specific thing. Like, I don't even know what my RPE is, blah, blah, blah. And so then all of a sudden it's like, you're doing way less reps. You're doing way too many. You're pushing yourself too hard. You're going to hurt something. Like, the perceived part is a huge part of it. And so that's why you got to implement it a couple months into training, maybe a couple weeks into training if you're experienced, to understand where you're kind of at. Dylan, I'll let you go.
Yeah, no, I was wanting to mention, like, I think tracking RPE is potentially dangerous at the same time. Not dangerous from like an injury perspective, but like tracking RPE from a mental perspective, like Large Banana was saying, it is a mental variable, and it can not only work like in the sense of, okay, like it's a mental barrier for you when you're training. If you are looking back at your past workout and what you've done for that, like say you were training legs and you were squatting, and your squat set previously was, 6 reps at 120 kilograms, or whatever you Americans call it in pounds. If you're doing that and you see an RPE of 9, right? The next week you're going to go, oh shit, that was an RPE 9. Like, I'm going to have to do that again today. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, as someone that may not necessarily be if you're not as mentally strong to look at an RPE 9 and go, fuck yeah, I'm going to hit that again, and I'm going to make it my bitch, and it's going to be an RPE 8 or an RPE 7.5 this week. Like, that can be quite intimidating for some people, like you were saying. Like, it can definitely get to, okay, well, I squatted 120 last week and it was cooked. Like, I'll put it on the Australian scale, it was proper cooked. And you go into it the next week and you look back and go, okay, I need to do 120 now. And it's like, oh man, it was an RPE 9. Like, no, I'll just do 110 and I'll do an extra rep. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you can psych yourself out in that sense. Whereas, like, if you're just tracking progressive overload, for example, you're literally just, proper cooked. Yeah, you just literally need to track the weight, and you did that weight. That you probably don't even remember by that point if it's 100% a 9 or a 10 or whatever it might have been. Yeah, we'll put that right in there between 9 and 10. Yeah. 9.5 is like proper cooked. That's where we want it to be. Yeah. But like, that's the thing. If you're just tracking progressive overload, all you know is the weight and how many reps you did last week You don't know, like, you probably don't even remember how difficult it was the previous week by the time you get to the next workout. So, at least for me anyway, because I have the memory of a goldfish and I don't remember what happened 5 minutes ago, let alone what happened in my workout last week. But if you're tracking your lifts and you're trying to lift a little bit heavier or do a few more reps each time, which is basically the premise of progressive overload, you need to understand that that's an easy way to just be like, cool, I've done that before. That's easier mentally to be like, oh, I did that last week. Sweet. We should be fine to do it again this week. Whereas if I look back and go, okay, I did it last week, but it was proper cooked and it was a 9.5 RPE, like you're going to look at it going, you might shy away from it. Do you know what I mean? Like you might not want to push yourself to that point that you had previously done because it was potentially a little bit too far. But at the same time, like, you can do that. So you've got that mental battle where it psychs you out of something you've done and know you can do versus like, oh, do I want to do it again is the question.
Right.
So I think definitely RPE can psych you out in the same way.
Yeah, I think that's something that doesn't really get talked about too much, Dylan. I think that the like whole mental side of like doing it, like in general, which is why it's something that I think shouldn't necessarily be implemented for a little bit. Like you get really like intimidating. You're like, oh, like try to do 1 rep max or something like that. Especially, and I want to touch on a point that Banana said here in that comment, and then Banana, I'll get to your next point here in a second. But especially with cardio, so I switched up this chart here from the weightlifting one to the cardio one, and you can kind of see in here like it's really difficult to measure exactly what max effort looks like. Right, especially if you don't have something that's tracking what you're doing. So the first step into understanding kind of where you're at is tracking. So I know like my buddies and I, we've been using the Nike Run app, right, which tracks a bunch of things. Actually, it tracks not only your time but your average time, your cadence, and your intensity. But even the intensity isn't tracked like too closely. It's kind of just a red and orange thing on the whatever trail you run. So when it comes to cardio, getting some kind of tracker, Garmin or Apple Watch or something like that to excuse me, is really key, I think, to being successful and trying to measure where you're at when it comes to cardio specifically, right? Those things won't help you as much in the gym as logging will, but when it comes to cardio, when it comes to running, figuring out where you're at in these different RPEs and like what does max effort look like for you? And that's the other thing, man, this is subjective. So like what does max effort look like for you? Your max effort is not going to look like somebody else's. I just watched, and if you guys have the chance, you got to go watch this documentary by Sally McRae. She ran like 4 ultra marathons in a year. So
couldn't be me.
She's insane. She's insane. But whatever your level of cardio is at is not her max effort or is not her vigorous activity, right? So you have to. It's all about you and understanding your body, right? And taking these simple, systems and implementing them into your own, right? I see you, Josh Homan, in the chat over on X. Yo,
yes, sir.
Josh, welcome in. Hey, yo, I appreciate everybody watching. We're on X, we're on Twitch, we're on Kick. Thank you guys for jumping in, for chatting in here. We love getting not only feedback, but we love hearing what you guys have to say about the topics we're talking about. That's really why we're here, why we're doing it, because we want to involve you guys in the conversation as much as possible. So really appreciate you guys being in here. I want to touch here on, and it has another. Coincidentally, I've just finished a self-set challenge, which relates to this discussion. Hell yeah. I decided to row 10 kilometers every day in December and no other exercise. Completed it today. Yo, congratulations. Congratulations for completing that.
Yes, sir.
Total 311 kilometers in 18 hours in the month.
Yeah.
My split times were pretty similar across all sessions. Can tell you that some days my RPE was 5, other days it was up towards 8 or 9, despite doing the same thing day in, day out at the same measured performance. You know, that's that's
Just
that's that's the other thing is that there's a lot of studies, and I'll do a better job, going into the future on bringing some of these studies and these links to the studies like into the podcast, so you guys can kind of look at them. But a lot of studies I've read and used in the past that talk about the difference in just energy levels, right? Like in the day, like
hmm
some
yeah.
days you're gonna do those things. You're gonna go to the gym in the morning. Some days you're gonna go to the gym in the evening. Some days you're gonna run fasted. Some days you're gonna work out fasted. Some days you may be some days
Running on 4 hours of sleep. Some
yeah.
days you're going to be running on 8 hours of sleep. Some days you're going to be, yeah, well fed,
Mhm,
rested, perfect condition, feels good.
mhm,
You might train at lunchtime compared to training at 5 a.m. in the morning. Like you're going to feel different
mhm.
on different days. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So trying to measure it exactly every single day can get really frustrating, right? And so I love that you bring that point up, Banana, because it's really important to understand that while RPE again is a tool in the toolkit, man, it's gonna be hard to stay really consistent, and that's why it's important
Mm,
to track things and work through every single day. Just make notes, right? It's really important to make notes, whether you're doing cardio, whether you're tracking your workouts in an app, whether you're writing things down. One thing that one of my coaches has done in the past is every single workout we'd kind of like give a little bit of feedback, and just like a tweet. You'd get like 120 characters or 180 characters. You just got like a sentence or two to give some feedback. So doing some things like that, if you're really thinking about implementing these systems and taking this seriously, like doing some things like not only writing down your numbers, but writing down a couple of notes on, hey, today I felt really great. Trained at 8 a.m., felt great, good effort. Even stuff like
mm,
that over time is going to make a huge impact, a huge change on the amount of effort you're able to implement, on the amount of change you're able to make over the course of, 4 months, 6 months, a year, right? Imagine if today you started tracking your workouts, tracking your runs, writing down little notes, and you did that every single time you worked out, you ran, you rode, right? You did some kind of powerlifting activity, you did some kind of whatever activity you're doing, right? Imagine you tracked that every time you did that. Imagine where you would be at and the progress you would have and the information you would have to utilize for the rest of your life going into
mm.
2025, right? By the end of 2024, let's think December 31st of 2024, if you've done that almost every single day, not only are you going to have so much information about yourself, but it's going to become a habit, in a few months. And you're going to be able to learn so much about how your body responds to different levels of training. And the reality of all this is that it's going to take some time, right, to implement these
Mm.
things, right? It's going to take time to learn what does max effort mean. It's going to take time to learn what does 4 to 6 mean, right? We're talking about this moderate activity. I'll pull up the other graphic right here, but what does like you see 9.5, 9, 8.5, 8? What do these things mean specifically, right, for you? And that's definitely going to take some time, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I think like one of those things is learning your body as well. Like we always try to come at this from multiple different angles for different types of lifters. Somebody that is fresh in the gym or brand new to it, or maybe they've had a long time off the gym, or they never really started young or anything like that, or they just didn't have the information as they were coming up. Like you said, RPE is one of those things that can be intimidating, but like you mentioned, it's just about learning your body's limits, knowing where you can go to, knowing how hard you can push yourself and avoid injury. That is key. You need to be able to understand what working out to your best capability each workout is.
Mm.
Because you can go in there and you can do the same workout that you've probably been doing and just go through the motions and not get the same amount out of it than you would if you went in laser focused, you know, completely emphasizing all of your mind muscle connection on every single rep. getting everything out of the workout, every bit of squeeze, every bit of push, everything extra that you can put in or get out of the tank. Those workouts are the ones that ultimately progress you, not the ones where you're going through the motions and just doing it because you're like, oh, I've got to go and work out today, or I've got to go and do it today. So, yeah, it's one thing where knowing your body and your body's limits is very important and can be key with the success level of, I guess, your progression as well.
Right. Yeah. And kind of bouncing off that, bro, like this is something as well that you can use to like kind of hold yourself accountable. If you're like, okay, I know that my RP9 is let's say last week I did a set of squats, 4 reps at RPE 8, right? At 315 pounds, right? I know that next week, if my energy's a little bit lower, if I'm not feeling as good, right, that I'm probably going to have to push myself a little bit if I want to keep making that progress. And so without that RPE tracker, without writing it down, right, without tracking stuff, like I'm not going to be able to mentally, sometimes you're not able to mentally get there to push yourself or push past that, right? And we kind of talk about with that with some progressive overload. Sometimes you need that, like just the accountability of writing it down and knowing like, okay, I could give 2 more. I could give 2 more here. I could give 2 more reps. I could give 1 more set here. Is really, really key to making progress and holding yourself accountable. I want to touch on, I know, Dylan, that you tapped in here. Large Banana says, and thanks for the props. Pretty pleased with the effort I'm giving. I'm 48 in April. Midlife crisis fitness. Hashtag midlife crisis fitness. Yo, that's incredible, man. Yeah, congrats to you again for staying 100%. So consistent with it. That's sick. If you want to learn how to listen to your body, take up cycling or rowing. You get a lot of time alone with your body telling you to stop and get off. Yeah, I love that. And with this new, I haven't done a lot of cardio training specifically in a long time, but with the Spartan race coming up, we're doing a lot more of that stuff. And there's so many times where your body just tells you no. Your body just says, nope. Your body's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. This is not fun. This is not where I want to be right now. This is not what I want to be doing right now. But doing that kind of training, that cycling, that rowing, any kind of cardio like that, like it's just gonna build up that like mental barrier to pain, right? The more and more you do it. So if you can just stay consistent with it and push through those first workouts that are like, this sucks, this is tough.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a ton out of it. I like to think about it when I'm doing that kind of stuff as like I'm earning my meal. Right. So a lot of times I'll run in the morning. Right. And so I like to think about it as I haven't eaten yet, but I need to earn it. I'm not just going to wake up and make myself breakfast. I got to earn that meal. And that to me is like really, really motivating to think about stuff like that. Like, or when I'm at the gym, it's like I'm always thinking about meals. Food is a huge motivator to me. Right. Now that I'm thinking about it and reflecting on it. But yeah, trying to get in that mindset, trying to get in that mode, man, those eggs taste so much better if you go for a long run, if you hit that cardio hard, if you're hitting that,
and you're starving by the time you get back too. So it's like that food goes down way easier.
And your body's a little tired and it's just sapping up all the nutrients, right? You're putting into it. So yeah. Have you done, what kind of like cardio training have you done?
Yeah, I went through like a cycling phase for a bit, and I went through a running phase as well, like both probably like 2 years ago and 18 months ago now. Like they were probably 6 months apart. The cycling thing, I 100% get what Banana was saying. Like it's a pain. Like some day, and it was, for me, it was 30 minutes each day. And some days you get on, you get your 30 minutes done and you're out and it's easy. And you're like, sweet, that was all goods. Other days you get to like the 15-minute mark. You're like, bro, I'm not making it to 30 minutes. And you've got to like will yourself through it. And, I wasn't just like always sitting on a bike at the gym. Sometimes it was out on the road. Sometimes it was like I didn't have like a road cycling bike or anything, but I had like a mountain bike that I'd go out and I'd ride for
Oh,
30 to
nice.
40 minutes. Like I'd do trails and things like that. So I went through like that kind of phase, and like, some days I'd ride to work, and bro, a 30-minute ride to work on footpaths and around trails and, different back roads and things like that, up hills, down hills, that's hard.
Yeah.
Like that's hard. But one thing that I always used to note when I was doing them was like there was always these couple of like really big hills. Could have easily got off the bike and walked up the hill. But I was like, nah, fuck that. Like
No.
I'm gonna push myself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna challenge myself so that this hill starts getting easier.
Mm-hmm.
It's, the more I do these hills and the more I ride them instead of just getting off and walking up the hill, this hill is going to get easier. And it did after doing it, for a couple of weeks in a row, like it got way easier.
Mm.
Same thing with the running. Like I started out just wanting to run a kilometer a couple of times a week. Then it was 2 kilometers. Then it was, how far can I run in X amount of time? And it just built up from there. And it's one thing where like I go through these cardio phases, and to be honest, I'm probably about to start another one after, seeing you start your run club stuff and tracking it and doing all of those. Like, I don't know if I'll be running, but like, I don't know how my knees are going to go with running. We'll see. We'll get there, but I got to work up to it. So it's definitely one thing where cardio will become more part of my workouts now. I've just got to put extra time aside to do that. Because obviously with my lunch break weightlifting sessions, I'm not going to get cardio in at the same time. So it's essentially going to be a second workout, either early in the morning or late at night before or after work, to get that done. Because obviously I train in the middle of the day and I don't have tons of time to lift. So I will get there. I'm going to ease into it. It's another thing for 2024 that I'm going to work on.
Yeah.
But I think 100% agree. Like the exertion on some days was much harder than the exertion on other days. And even when those hills got easier that I was riding, it's like, okay, it was easy yesterday, I should be fine. And then the next day you go to ride it and you're like, damn, this is hard. Like
right.
Your body just is not ready for it, or not prepared to go and take on that challenge. And you've got to, again, mentally convince yourself that you're going to do it and you can do it. And the RPE 9 that it was yesterday isn't going to stop me from riding it today. Like that's 100% a mental game.
Yeah, I'm seeing here, Lodge Banana. Another great level up for me is 20 kg, 40-pound sandbag circus, shifting unconventional weight with heart rate through the roof. Love it, but it beats the snow. Yeah, that sounds like
that's very like CrossFit style training. I feel like that would that stuff is always so high intensity. Like your heart rate's always insane. We've got like the push sleds at my gym, the push and pull sleds, and like we just load them up with weight sometimes, and we just like we've got the grass track, and we just like launch them down the grass track and compete against each other to go through that sort of type of exercise as well. And by the end of it, bro, your heart rate is 1,000,000 and you just struggle straight.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, there's so many ways to implement this, right? There's so many ways to implement RPE. And what I want to leave people with, I think, is just encouraging tracking how you feel, tracking what does RPE 10 look like to you. Test yourself, right? Don't be afraid to test your 1 rep max. Obviously, we want proper technique. We need proper warm-ups.
With the spotter.
We talked about that last week, right? With the spotter, right? There's ways to do it, right? But don't be afraid to put yourself under some stress, because that's gonna help you figure out how you can push yourself, right? If you want to do heavier rows, don't be afraid to put that weight stack up 20 or 30 more pounds. Even if you can't move the weight, at least you tried, right? At least you tried. At least you're figuring out exactly where you need to be, right? Especially for like hypertrophy, like you're talking about, sets that are 7 to 15 reps ish, right? If you're working somewhere in that rep range, don't be afraid to push it a little bit, right? Figure out exactly what you need and just push it, right? That's how you're going to learn about your body. That's how your body's going to grow. It's going to adapt to new stimulus. So you start pushing more weight, and pulling more weight and figuring out that threshold, right? What does 80, 90% look like, right? What does 70% look like effort? You're really gonna find out a lot about your body. And that's gonna help you really learn a ton about how to move forward, how to progressive overload, right? That's super, super important. How to implement all these things we've been talking about, RPE, progressive overload, right? These are all tools in the toolkit. I'll say it again, tools in the toolkit to just blow up our gains, for a non-sports science term.
Yes, sir.
Is to blow up our gains, right? We're trying to get huge. We're trying to become athletic. We're trying to be the best versions of ourselves, right? And so these are just tools that are going to get us there, right? Tools that are going to grow our muscles, improve our strength, right? Increase our mental resilience. You talk about especially RPE with cardio. I think really it almost becomes more of a mental game than a physical game, right? Sometimes. So jot those things down, learn about your body, understand where you're at with each lift, and be patient with yourself in the gym, on the trail, in the water, wherever you're at. Be patient with yourself, for sure.
100%. Definitely.
Carrying those sandbags, though, Banana, give you props. Because that kind of stuff is not my favorite. Give me barbell and weights for sure. But I know with the Spartan race that we're doing, that kind of stuff definitely exists. I think there's a bucket carry. I think I don't know if there's a sandbag carry, but stuff like that, it's definitely part of it. It's definitely in there. So, yeah, that's kind of all I got. Dylan, do you have anything else on this topic?
Nah, that's pretty much everything I've got for this week as well. Probably just do a shout out to all the socials, and then we can get out of here, and we'll be back next week. Back on a regular schedule now, obviously after last week off with Christmas and stuff. But yeah, again, thank you guys for the support lately everywhere. If you guys are new, again, Banana, thank you for tuning in today. We are going to have the upload on YouTube as well as the audio version up on Spotify. So if you guys could subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Spotify, it does always help out the podcast. We're also going to have clips going up on TikTok more regularly. Again, that's one thing that we've been talking about progressing further with. And then there are some exciting potential coaching opportunities in the future that Jack and I have been discussing as well. So you guys will hear more about that in the future. But for now, just keep posted on the socials. Again, X and Instagram as well. Jack's working on those things and getting posts out there. So we've got a ton of different things that we're working on. All social platforms are going to be pumped up in 2024. So thank you for being here already. And if you are new, then make sure you're following us in all the right spaces, and we'll be having plenty of content coming out for you guys as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just want to shout out everybody that jumped in here, right? Mattia, Caminelli, I appreciate you. Day Zero Gang, baby. Come on. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Josh Hellman over on X. Yes, sir. Appreciate you jumping in. Thank you so much. Large Banana 1. What a username. Large Banana 1, thank you for jumping in. Thank you. Yo, thank you for sharing your story, the effort that you've been putting in, right? Thank you for chatting, asking questions, giving your input. I love that shit, right? That's why we do it. I want to hear people's stories. I want to hear what people are doing. It's awesome. He says, I'll give you a sandbag circuit that'll get you in shape for Spartan. Okay. Okay, challenge accepted.
You're gonna have to hit him up for that now, Jack.
Yeah, for sure. Send it to me on. You can send it to me on Instagram. You can send it to me on X, whatever, at When He Lifts on all socials. So, feel free to send it. There's no obligation to follow or anything like that. Just send the workout. I'll try it out sometime this week, and then next week,
Jack's gonna record it, and we're gonna put it on TikTok.
Exactly,
because content is king.
Exactly. Next week, same time. 1:30 p.m. Central, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, or if you're in Australia, it's 5:30.
5:30 a.m.
5:30 a.m.
Right. Yes, sir.
Right.
We up. Yeah. Early rise, early grind.
Early rise, early grind. Back to bed after this podcast.
Well, yeah. Only today.
Well,
It's New Year's Day.
only today. Not usually. Not usually.
I've got the day off, so you know,
Right.
I got plenty of time to get my workouts and my meals in. So we're good. We're good.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, before we go, I am going to really quickly figure out how to play this video. I'm going to play the promo video for the Spartan race. If anybody listening is interested, on February 17th, myself, Mattia, Cash Money Kevin on X, and Josh Hellman, that's the ITT gang, we're all going to Arizona on February 17th. We're going a little bit earlier, but we're going to Arizona. The race is on February 17th. We're doing the Spartan 10K, the Super. I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped, man. I keep watching videos. The boys are sending their runs in our group chat. Like, it's just sick. It's just sick. So look, we're super excited, right? We're super excited to be there. There's going to be a bunch of content coming out with that. There's going to be a bunch more content coming out on my YouTube channel. Some vlogs, running, lifting, some educational stuff. And there's a lot of stuff on the horizon. There's a lot of stuff on the horizon that I'm excited to continue build. I'm excited to continue building this community. Large Banana, I appreciate all your chats. It's just been incredible to, you know, have a conversation with you as well. Mattia, Josh, thank you guys for jumping into the X live stream as well. That's all we got. That's all we got, man. Check us out on socials. I'm gonna figure out how to play this video, which is gonna take me a second. But besides that, we are out.
We out. We done.
All right, I'm gonna figure out how to play this video. It's gonna take me 2 seconds, but
Cool.
I'll see you guys later.
Much love, everybody.
This is Dylan. This is. All right, everybody. I'm gonna figure out how to play this real quick. Here we go. We're almost there. Here we go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you guys next week, same time. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Whitney, owner and head trainer of Day Zero Training. And today I want to cast a vision for you, a vision of victory, a vision of championship level proportions. Here at Day Zero, I want to build a community of dedicated, driven, disciplined, and motivated individuals ready to become champions of their own life. And what better way to do that than a Spartan race? I want to personally invite each and every member of the community who is committed, who is passionate, who is driven, and who feels like they have a fire inside them to become a better version of themselves to the Day Zero team on Spartan.com. Developing a champion level mindset starts by surrounding yourself with others who are fueled by the same fire. On February 17th, 2024, the Day Zero team and I are headed to our first Spartan race in McDowell, Arizona. We're gonna be running the Super, which is 10K, 25 obstacles. We are excited and we're hungry to train up for the next month and a half for this incredible race. But we're not just going to run, we're going to sweat. We're going to work, and we're going so that we can become better versions of ourselves. So let's run together. Let's live together, and let's compete together. And let's create together something that transcends just ourselves. Because we can run the race fast on our own, but we can run it much further as a team.